You know, it's raining today as I write this script. Um, I wrote the original script for this video maybe 5 months ago, and today I'm writing the script and it's raining. I think it's a very fitting way to write the script again because rain is great. Well, the fondest memories I have are with rain. So from the fitting now, I'll be writing this as it's raining, and I want to rewrite the entire script because every time I think of rain, I'm just transported back to the days of my childhood when I used to spend so much time playing games like Midnight Club 3, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, Need for Speed Most Wanted, and I'm always going to have a certain kind of fondness for games like these. And the very experience of playing these games when I'm raining, it just instantly takes me back to that exact moment in time in my childhood, and it's amazing just how games can do something like that for you. In this video I just kind of wanted to think about how my experience relates with game worlds and how I have this weird obsession with wanting to be completely immersed in the game world. And it's a bit of a messy ride. This video was recorded over the course of maybe 4 to 5 months, almost 6 at this point, and I do need you to keep that in mind as you watch the video, that my thoughts are going to grow over time because it's more of a chronological video, so good luck with this mess. So let's go back to February 2025 when I first started recording this video. A few weeks ago I was scrolling through YouTube as one does, and I came across a video about unremarkable and odd places in Assassin's Creed 1. There was also a video about an innocuous lantern in Assassin's Creed, and both of these videos are made by Annie Austin, who has a lot of videos like these which are about, well, unremarkable things in video games. The first video that I mentioned is honestly just literally that. It's just him going through the world and looking at things that are, well, unremarkable. And this was very fascinating to me, right? Because I think I've spent so much of my time being interested in things like these, and no one really seems to understand what I see in video games differently than everyone else, because I've never been the kind of person who likes to have fun in video games. I'm really just about getting in the world and being in that space. So for me it was really just the fact that I'd finally find someone who gets me, which was amazing to me because there is an untapped kind of joy to games where you can simply exist and, well, appreciate the act of existing. When I was a kid, I think one of the first games that I wanted to play was Need for Speed and Grand Theft Auto. And the latter is very simple, I think, because as a kid you are so confined to your small world where you can't really do much outside of your house and your school and wherever else your parents take you. But then you have Grand Theft Auto where you can go anywhere you want, you can do anything you want. If you like a car, you can get into it, you can drive off a ramp if you want to, which you can't really do in real life. I mean, you could tell your mom to drive off a ramp, but then she won't because God forbid someone wants to have fun, I guess. So when you're a kid and you see Grand Theft Auto and you can see that you can have this freedom, I think it's very easy for me to be, oh my god, I really want to play this game. Which is funny because this game has never really been for kids, but I feel like it is the perfect game for a kid to play, because it teaches people that it's really funny when you run people over with cars. And I think the thing for me is that the fascination with this idea just never really went away. Like even today, if you told me that I can play the next Grand Theft Auto 6 and I can get into any car I want, I'm gonna be so happy with it, because I'm gonna be like, oh my god, my freedom slot. I love my freedom slot. There's just like this general annoyance that comes from restrictions, and I think as you grow into an adult, these things do get a bit easier, but also there's always going to be restrictions. I mean, I still can't run people over with my car, so at least I can do that in Grand Theft Auto 5, and the ragdolls are really funny in that game. But speaking of restrictions, it's not like this world is free of restrictions either. I mean, I can't just go into any building I want, I can't just get into any shop I want, I can't do every possible thing there is for me to do, which kind of gets in the way of that fantasy, and that's the one thing that bothered me as a kid, and I think even now as an adult, kind of bothers me when I can't do every single thing in a game. Mods are amazing. I mean, if you see a game and you're like, oh my god, I wish I could do this one thing, you can probably mod it in yourself, but chances are you don't even have to, because someone else probably had the same idea and did it themselves already. My first experiences with modding was obviously with Grand Theft Auto, because that's the game I grew up with, and modding San Andreas is probably one of the most fun things I've done in my entire life. I had like a whole section in my video talking about San Andreas where I was talking about the mods, so I'm not going to do that here anymore. But after I was done with Grand Theft Auto, I moved on to Skyrim. Skyrim is probably even bigger when it comes to the amount of mods it has. I mean, Skyrim mods are just like
so insane because you have mods that can range from just amazing, I mean gorgeous, I mean this is amazing, how did they do this, to like why would you do that? Why would you do that? As for me, when I started modding Skyrim, I started out with mods that were more about just adding new things to the game. I wanted new content packs, like new weapons, new NPCs, new armor, stuff like that. But then eventually what I realized was that it was really fun to go around the world and find these things for yourself. But also, going around the world doesn't really feel hard. So what I started doing was I started adding things that were more immersion focused. It basically came to a point where I had this system where I could not walk more than maybe 5 minutes before I would have to set up camp again, and for that I would have to get trees, I had to get wood, and then once I had the wood I had to set up camp, then I had to go hunting around this place, get some food for myself, I had to get myself some water, I had to hide myself from the cold. All of this might sound extremely boring to you or sound like the most fun you've ever had in your entire life based on who you are right now, but I'm gonna guess that 80% of you think this is just boring. But for me, I was definitely in the 20% that thought that this was really fun. For the first 5 times I did it, because then after that it was just like, okay, is that it? Is that literally it? Because then I realized this is just an obstacle that is keeping me from getting to the next point. Which was kind of the original intention, but I think it starts to get more boring when you know that you've set up all these restrictions just for yourself, and you could take them off just as easily as uninstalling this one mod. After a certain point, you kind of realize it's just slop that you're putting in your own way. It's not slop in the way that no one made the system. Some person, some insane person has sat down and made these entirely for free for the community by themselves in their own free time. And at the end of the day, every person's Skyrim with their own set of mods is their artistic preference in what they like to have in their game. It is a form of expression in and of itself. But there is this realization that you're doing all this and experiencing what can't be called anything more than art to be looked at and appreciated from a distance. But this will never really be something you should be playing as a full game. That was never the intent. These are isolated things that simply will be very hard to make work in conjunction with each other, unless you're just going for simpler things that are only supposed to complement the base game or supposed to completely revamp it into a completely different game. And after a certain point, it all just gets a bit too tiring, especially when you realize that you're doing all of this alone. I mean, you're going to be spending weeks modding Skyrim, then you'll be spending maybe 2 hours playing it, then you'll be spending another week just modding it, and you'll be spending all of your time on this, but you'll be so alone and disconnected from the real world. And that's where roleplay comes in. Roleplay covers the social aspect, but is also more or less just modding. I mean, these servers are nothing more than just modded instances of the base game. So when you're going into a server, you are really just picking a mod pack and having other people who have the same mod pack playing with you in that server. I mean, roleplay is one of the most common types of servers you're going to see in Grand Theft Auto 5, and I think I can see why, because there's just something inherently interesting about being in this world with other real players who are pretending to be real people just like you are. Like, yes, you have a hunger system just like the mod I had earlier in Skyrim, but to eat you can go to a fast food place, and guess what? There's a cashier there, and that cashier is a real person playing the game, working as a cashier in the game. That is their character's day job, and they come in there and they serve food to people, and that's what they do. It's just that the whole system consists of all different people doing their own jobs in the massive open world. If you've played the base game of Grand Theft Auto 5, or really just any game, not even an open world game, just any game at all, you sometimes do wonder if these NPCs have anything going on other than what they really just show to you. And that is what Grand Theft Auto roleplay does. Every single person in this world that you see is living their own lives. They don't just exist for you, they exist in their own sort of bubble, and they have their own connections and stuff. I mean, these are real people. Isn't that just insane? This gives the gameplay a whole new layer of interaction, because stories can unfold in real time. And there's just something nice about knowing that you're interacting with another real person, not just the person that the character is in game, but there is a person behind that. There's a person that is writing these stories, because at the end of the day, that's what roleplay is. It's someone writing fiction. that is what roleplay is. It's a bunch of writers who are also acting the writing that they're doing. So it can lead to some insane spontaneous storytelling, and that is the most fun I can have in video games. Survival games were a more recent realization. I think it was when I realized just how much time I spent trying to make games into survival games that I realized just how much I should have just played a survival game all along. The main issue is that they feel way too focused on survival and not exploration. I mean, survival games are by design meant to be set in places that are barren and empty. It's not like Grand Theft Auto where it's a bustling city, or like Skyrim with its cozy, comfy cities. Survival games make you feel out of place and unwanted. The problem is that I already feel that way all the time anyway. But then I gave The Long Dark a try, and I surprisingly enjoyed it. Despite this being a hardcore survival game, which probably wasn't a good start for me, I really did enjoy how slow and methodical it was. I mean, the amount of knowledge that the game needs you to have that you just don't get introduced to by the game itself, like you have to learn these things for yourself. That is just insanely fun to me, because that has like exploration and research and learning aspect to it. But then once you learn all those things start to get very routine. I mean, you know exactly what you have to do, so you just have to like do those things. The order will vary because you will find different resources at different points in times, and sometimes you'll run into some unexpected thing, but the routine becomes very clear and obvious. It just starts to feel like rinse and repeat. It's just like Skyrim all over again, huh? Maybe if I hadn't watched a guide on how to survive in the forest after a few days of playing, I could have spent more time trying to learn the game, but it was just way too hard doing it myself. Other than that, I think Lethal Company deserves a very special mention for this, because while Lethal Company doesn't feel as much of a survival game as it does a horror game, it has a lot of exploration and having to keep your eyes peeled and paying attention to the world around you. And obviously the multiplayer aspect plays into this heavily as well, because it turns your friends into a gameplay mechanic. It is really good at making you feel immersed by just the voice chat and the sound design, making you feel like your friends are actually there in the world with you. And obviously Lethal Company has randomly generated dungeons, which means there's not so much exploring to be done in terms of going around and looking at things. It's more just trying to find things inside of these worlds that are familiar but different every single time. So Lethal Company is actually kind of the opposite of something like Grand Theft Auto, where you can feel really immersed in its existence, but there is really not that much to look at. On the other hand, the last survival game I played was Raft, and I absolutely loved it. This one again focuses less on exploration unless you go to a story island, but something about building your own space with your friends. The Raft isn't just your way to get from point A to point B, it really just turns into a reminder of the things you've been through. I mean, everything about your Raft is up to you, and it tells a story of all the things you've been through. I mean, if you look at our Raft, you'll see that there's a farm here, and there's a building, and you can tell that it's not at the center. It's slightly offsided. That's because this is just not how we initially built the Raft. And there's this really weird section at the back, which is for my friend who wanted her own space on the Raft. And then there's a piano up here because I really like playing the piano. It's really cool how the space tells a story. Raft obviously does fall into the issue of eventually everything just becoming routine. I mean, you know what you have to do, you just have to get there. But since it has kind of a progression system where you have to get through the story, and the story gives you new things that you now have to integrate into your previously existing system, means you constantly have to be iterating and improving on your system. And that gives a real layer of dynamic movement to the game. Unfortunately, the thing about this is that the progression will eventually end and the game will be over. But yeah, for the time that the game lasts, it is such a blast to see your system getting better and better and better and growing with you as your journey gets further, as you unravel the story, as you have more memories with your friends. And I think that's the thing. Unlike Lethal Company, where memories are in isolation, I think in Raft, our entire journey feels so clear in my head because of how smooth the whole progression to getting to that point was. It's a very memorable experience, and I love that about Raft. Survival games as a whole are definitely very close to the fantasy that I have, and I love them for that. But as I said, they're often not that heavy on the exploration side, and once you learn the mechanics, all of them really just turn into doing the same thing over and over again, much like modding. This is unlike roleplays where there's always something new to see and do. For some reason, this doesn't bother me as much in open world games. Something about them being inherently made to end at a certain point kind of doesn't bother me about the fact that I'm doing nonsensical things that don't really matter. Which is, I guess, a bit similar to Raft, where I wasn't really concerned about the fact that it was repetitive because I knew that there's a fixed endpoint. The same applies to open world games, where there's a story, and unless you're playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, they're fairly limited in scope. Once they cross that point, yeah, these games can turn into slop. That's a different thing. But funnily enough, one of my favorite games is Watch Dogs 2. There's just so much detail put into the world map. I mean, this is just a gorgeous city. I think this has to be one of the best cities that we've seen in a video game. It's a beautiful city with so many things to look at, and it is a joy to just exist in that space. And even ignoring the fact that it's really fun to just walk around the city, it also gives you more incentives in that you can profile people, you can read about people's lives, you can read what they do, you can see how much money they get, you can snoop in on their conversations, you can read their text messages. The NPC systems are so dynamic, you can call the cops on anyone, you can start a gang fight. There are so many things to do in this world. It's a world that feels real, and the people in it feel like they're real and lead real lives. It's really like being dropped in the middle of nowhere with the ability to just explore and observe as you please. I mean, it's a wonderful experience, just being able to live in a world that is almost real. A world that is almost real. I don't know if it's my age or what, but I often have these moments where I feel more livid, more alive, like for once I'm actually here. I sat there, looking at the walls around me. Immediately, I looked into the mirror and saw a beautiful reflection of the window showing the evening sky. A gradient of a dark blue going towards the orange of the setting sun. And yet as a whole, it looked oddly white. It's hard to capture a moment like this. So initially, I just took a quick photo and threw my phone away. My eyes started around my room instead. What an odd thing to have a cross in the higher part of the wall. What an odd thing to have a microwave oven on the fridge. What an odd thing to have a washing machine next to it. To have all this in a bedroom. To have a hat hanging on a guitar stand. To have guitar stands at all with no guitars to hang them on. To have a cupboard built into the wall. What an odd place to live in. I was in this exact space when I recorded that thing and wrote that weird poetry thing. I was like lying over there and I was just like recording this entire space, and it was like such a cool moment for me. That was 2 months ago somehow. I think what I realized in that moment was that you don't really need to be teleported to a special place to explore it. You might have been living in the same town for the entirety of your life, and you might have been exploring the same room for the entirety of your life. But unless you've actively tried to pay attention to it, I think it is very easy for us to just not really pay attention to it. There's so many things about this room that I didn't notice until that night, and I'm pretty sure if I look around now, I'm going to notice some odd things about it even now. It's kind of the beauty of reality, right? Like, just like in video games, when I go to a new space, I can look at all these things. Am I really looking for these things in the space that I live in? That's what I asked myself. And turns out I wasn't. It was very brief. I think it barely lasted for 5 minutes, because as soon as it happened, I was on my phone. I was jotting down that poem thing describing the room, because it was such a cool video idea and I needed to get that in. But for those few moments, I was alive. I was breathing, I was looking at everything, and I was feeling positive. Like living was worth it after all. I don't really like being depressed. It's always kind of been a bit of a turn off for me. But in that time, I watched another Annie Austin video. And in that video, I saw something very interesting that I kind of think I hadn't noticed before. In that video, Annie Austin is talking about Skyrim's weather, and at the very end he talks about thinking about how places around you would feel. He was very much doing the whole you should also look at the real world around you sort of thing. For whatever reason, I felt a little bit different when I was watching this, and I don't know why. I really do think you should go watch the video yourself with this in context, and maybe you'll understand the difference. But I reflected on the fact that I said that Annie Austin loves games that I like. I mean, Ubisoft, GTA, Rockstar, open world slop sort of games. And I still do think he does like them, but he also does like games that I don't like Nintendo games and stuff like that. What I think I realized was that Annie Austin is not just at awe of all these technologically impressive things, he's just at awe of what humans can do. That day I went on a walk outside, as one does, and this is embarrassing, but I saw like a chaiwala that is like giving away tea to like two people that was there. I shit you not, the first thing I thought was, oh my god, this is just like Watch Dogs 2. That is unironically what I thought. I'm not kidding, that's literally what I thought. Now sure, in some ways it might just feel like I'm touching on everything that I already touched about earlier, but I realized that it's not about the surface level understanding of appreciating things. It's just about being curious about everything around you and also being at awe of everything that is good around you. And that's a skill that I really, really had to learn. Almost everything that happened in this video is from February, which is 2 months ago. And I don't think I've actually worked on this for a month. I haven't worked on YouTube as a whole for a month. And the past few days I've been struggling to figure out if I even am the same person that I was when I was writing the script, who I have been for, the entirety of my life. And the answer is obviously that I am in fact the same person. It's just, I have to get back to it, and that's why I sat down today and I started recording this. And somehow I think this was a very good video for me to be working on today. A lot of things I've touched upon in this video are things that I needed to hear. For now I'm just going to try and finish this video off, and if you can see it, then I've probably finished it. Which I hope you do. And hopefully things just get better from now on. Whether they do or they don't, one thing is for certain: curiosity and awe are the most important things in my life right now. And that's kind of the core of who I am, and I really need to make sure I preserve those two things, if nothing else. Hi. So as you can tell, it's been about 2 more months, almost 3 at this point, since I last recorded that video, and I have not worked on it for all this time. I have, but it's been so slow, and it's just like, doesn't seem to end, and I don't know what to do about it anymore, okay? I'm in such a dilemma about this video. Now the problem is, I'm almost done with it right now. Everything that you've seen up to this point has been edited, almost. But I'm a changed person now, and I have more to say on this topic. So I thought to myself, why don't I increase the length of this video by, I don't know, maybe an entire third? Maybe just another entire half? Who knows, right? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to increase the length of this video. But why don't I tell you a story? See, the last few days I've been recording a lot of different footage for these videos. And when I do that, I might boot up something and I'm like, this is the exact same way that I remember it to be when I was a kid. All of these gaming worlds remain the exact same for the entire duration that I don't play them. If I start a new save, it starts all over again. This isn't exactly the case for the real world though, and I find that incredibly fascinating, and it's something that I really wanted to dig upon with the one time that I tried to find my Minecraft world in an online world that had already died. Now, as you can imagine, what I was able to find instead was an archive of that world, and it was from maybe 4 years ago. So I was basically exploring a world that had died 4 years ago. And as you can imagine, that is a little bit terrifying in its own way, because I'm in this world and I'm going around looking at all these creations. You can see little messages from people to each other, you can see little inside jokes, you can see little structures that were never finished, you can see structures that were finished and are amazing, and you ask yourself, what happened to these people, right? Like, where are they now? How many people were friends in this world and they never added each other elsewhere? And maybe they want to go back to their old friendships and they go to that server and turns out it's no longer there. It's all kind of terrifying when you really think about it. I spent like 2 days going through this world trying to find my house, because you gotta realize this was like a massive open world with people having their own places in it. The worst part of it all really was that I didn't even really know if my house was going to be there anymore, because the way this world operated was in factions,
And since I wasn't on that server for so long, there was a good chance that my faction had dissolved, and now instead, someone else had taken it and built their own stuff on it. So I spent hours in this world trying to find my house. And at the very end, I found it. But guess what? It wasn't there anymore. There's such a weird feeling to going through this area, knowing that this is where your old house used to be, but it's not there anymore, and it's such a weird feeling.
Okay, so I kind of need to narrate this whole thing because I do need to show you the experience of getting here. You see this bridge, right? So after all my hours of trying to find this place, I finally found that bridge, and that bridge was kind of important because I remember that was the bridge that I used to get to my house every single time. You could teleport to that bridge. And then this hut, there used to be a hut near, but I don't think this is the same hut. So you go down here, and to the right, this area over here, this is where my house used to be. And I am somewhat convinced that this is exactly that same place, but if that's the case, this is worrying because that means it's not there anymore. And you see this video, this is me watching a very old video of when, the gameplay from back then that I have recorded. And you can see that this is definitely just the same place, but I was throughout the whole session, you can't see it because I'm going to cut out a lot of the alt tabbing that I was doing because it's going to get annoying, but throughout the whole time I was just watching this old video that I had of back then and walking through the same location, trying to just see this is in fact the same place, right? This is the exact same place. But look at it. It's the exact same place, but it doesn't look the same, does it? Things have changed so much, and that was incredibly heartbreaking to me because yes, I had finally found my house, but also this is, the house isn't there anymore, and the place just looks completely broken, and there's these structures, but they don't look the same, and it's, oh god, this was such a hard session for me. I had spent hours trying to find this place, and I'd finally found it, and yeah, I was trying to capture all the information here, but it's completely different. It's all gone, it's been replaced by other things, and even those things are dead. They've been dead for years now, and oh my god, this was a really really difficult session to be in, and I'm so glad I recorded it, but I kind of wish I recorded more of it, and also wish you could actually hear me talking, but the fact that you can't hear me, you can just kind of imagine that I was probably crying throughout this whole thing.
I was comparing the place to some old footage and images that I had of that place, and yeah, it is indeed the same place, but it's the few things that remind me of it being the same place are what really make me feel worried about the fact that it's not the same place. My house isn't there anymore. Neither is the house that was next to it that was one of my faction members. Neither is the mine that was there right in front of it. It's all just gone. How am I really supposed to come to terms with that? That this place that I would spend so long searching for, that I was really hoping would still be there, is not there anymore. I kind of regret having done that, because for the next few weeks, for maybe a month, I was incredibly depressed. I don't know how to explain this to you, but I'm scared of Minecraft. I'm genuinely scared of Minecraft, because every time that I go back to this world, I have to remember times when I've played this game before and how things will never be the same ever again. Every time you boot up Minecraft in a single player world, it's a new seed. Nothing is ever the same. It's cool because you get to explore a new world, but you can never go back to a lost save. You can never go back to that same world and explore it again. The passage of time is a very scary thing, and I'm amazed that I have such an oddly specific experience to talk about that I didn't decide to include in this video earlier, but I'm glad I did now because it was pretty relevant to it, I think. Right, so now that we're reaching this point where this video is almost getting over, I need you to tell me something. What was this video about, right? You just watched the entire thing, hopefully, and I need you to tell me, what do you think I was trying to say in this video? Every time that I sit down to make this video, I have to ask myself, what is the title of this video? The current title of this video is probably My Desire to Live in Gaming Spaces or something of the sort. The very first title that this video had was The Odd Experience of Living in Virtual Worlds, and in parentheses, the real one. So that was the initial sort of idea behind this video, and I have to ask myself, is that really what this video is about? Because sometimes I start to think, no, it is about the odd experience of living in the real world, but this doesn't feel like a video about the virtual world. No, it feels more like a video complaining about how the virtual world is not enough and the real world is the answer. I mean, even the story that I just told you about the Minecraft world, why did I tell you that? It's an interesting experience, but what was I trying to say? And I think that's where I'm starting to find my answer about why I even have so much trouble with the virtual worlds that I just complained about for the entire video. And there's a really good way to describe this whole thing with one single phrase that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. I'm not a gamer because I choose to have one life. I'm a gamer because I choose to have many. That's an incredibly funny quote from a t-shirt that some of you might recognize. But it's true. The point of going into virtual worlds is not to live a recreation of reality. It is to experience the artist's vision of reality, of a reality that they created that isn't real and shouldn't be real. That is the point of fiction. That is the point of simulations, of fantasy worlds. And it is amazing to me that I have been thinking that every fantasy world needs to appeal to my specific idea of what the ideal fantasy world is, when I could have just looked at them for what they are instead. And I'm amazed that this is something I had to realize. That, like, when I say it out loud, I'm like, obviously that is the case. And this is something that I thought I understood, but I didn't. And now everything makes sense to me. Everything is starting to make sense to me. Oh my god. I really keep thinking about the one thing that this video does really awfully is to actually highlight virtual spaces. I mean, throughout the video, I am talking about different virtual spaces, but when does it feel like I'm appreciating them? Because it almost always feels like I'm telling you that something is good, and then I'm like, no, but actually it kind of sucks for this reason. So for a few minutes, I just want to reflect on gaming worlds that mean something to me. So we should start off with the generic ones. I mean, Skyrim is the first one that comes to mind because I've already talked about it. And to be quite honest with you, I don't even think I need to talk about Skyrim too much. The world is just amazing with like so many different cities that you can explore. And it just feels nice to be in the world of Skyrim. There's like every NPC is their own person and they have their own lives and lore and everything connects so well together. There's like a really cool sense of discovery to this world. Along with Skyrim, I also do have to mention Assassin's Creed because unfortunately Ubisoft is quite good at making open worlds. I mean, they made Far Cry 2, which I do believe is one of the most immersive open world games out there. I mean, to heal in that game, you literally have animations that are literally just healing, and you navigate the world through a map, a physical map that is in your hands, and that is like one of the coolest things that I've seen in how games handle UI. Now, Assassin's Creed though is a little bit less immersive in that aspect, but it does have beautiful worlds. Like, you can walk around the worlds of Assassin's Creed and the music is great and the ambience is great, and these worlds really do feel quite nice to explore. And there's just something really cool about knowing that what you're exploring doesn't exist anymore. I mean, this is kind of like a snapshot of a time that, well, it's not even a snapshot, it's a recreation of a snapshot of a time. It's like a painting, almost, of a historic period that doesn't exist anymore. It's even cooler for things like Assassin's Creed Mirage, which is based on cities that really just don't exist anymore and we know nothing about how they might have looked. So it's really cool to see how they managed to like bring these worlds back to life. I already mentioned Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is a little bit less impressive on that front, but it still is really cool how a game like Watch Dogs, the Chicago in that game, is just so insanely alive. Like, if you really were to walk around the city, you will see people doing things that are quite people-y. Like, this is things that I would see people do. Even in Watch Dogs 2, there's like people doing things, and I don't know how to explain why it's so cool that you can walk around this world and you can often see people do cool things and you can profile them to see what they're doing. Like, are they talking to someone on a call? Are they texting someone? What are they texting about? Stuff like that is really fun to explore. Now, Grand Theft Auto 5 is obviously going to be here. I mean, Grand Theft Auto, like Rockstar, is beautiful at creating open worlds. 5 is obviously the newest one so far and is quite good. I mean, I do think 5 falls a little bit short of San Andreas, where I feel like San Andreas had a world that felt a lot more engaging and interesting to be in. But most of the GTA games are just amazing at putting you into a city that feels great to be in.
And now we can go over to Yakuza, because I've only played Yakuza 0, but I think Yakuza is also a really good example. And I think Yakuza is one of the best examples actually, because there has never been a place, a virtual place, that feels as alive as Yakuza does. I mean, when you're in the spaces that Yakuza puts you in, it really does feel like you've been teleported into that city in that point in time. There is so much to do, and I feel like the whole aspect of walking around the city is something that is the most viable in Yakuza, just because of how much there is to see and do around you. Now, Yakuza 0 is based on sort of like the PS2 era, because it's, sort of based around the original Yakuza for the PS2, and I feel like the PS2 era was where immersion was actually something that was kind of good back then. I feel like modern games aren't that good at doing it anymore. I'm going to get into something that I'm sorry for talking about, but Harry Potter. The Harry Potter games on the PS2 are some of my favorites, okay? As much as She Who Must Not Be Named is an awful person, I do really hold these games close to my heart. Especially Harry Potter 5 and 6, because I think these are like the closest you can get to like the actual Hogwarts, like good recreations of the castle. This is probably the closest you're gonna get. The castle in these games are just so well made. Like, for an example, right, you know about the Grand Staircase from the movies, right? Like, it's this massive space where there's just like a lot of stairs that is flying around, and it's like one of the coolest things ever, right? Now let's look at modern gaming, okay? Let's look at Hogwarts Legacy and how it handles this. Now let's go back and look at how Harry Potter 5 and 6 handled the same thing. So you can see how I mean, I don't need to tell you much about it, do I? The Harry Potter games on the PS2 really did manage to nail the castle in these aspects. But there's also the earlier Harry Potter games for the PS2, which are obviously Harry Potter 1 to 3. Now these games were a bit more old school. They were more like Legend of Zelda-esque than being like, what they were in later games. The castle is more of a set piece, really. The game sort of takes place in these dungeons, which are also inside the castle somehow, which is weird. But there is an undeniable vibe to the castle in the first 3 games. Like, it's a different vibe to what I was talking about with the, last 2 games. I mean, I can just have these vague memories of sneaking through the castle, or like, it's nighttime and you have to go outside, you need to go to the library and stuff like that. Maybe you've run into Peeves and now you have to fight Peeves. Or maybe Malfoy let you to the dungeon and now you have to escape the dungeon. Like, out of all the games that make me feel like I'm actually in Hogwarts as a student, I feel like these first 3 games really sort of nail that vibe. Don't we all have memories of your teacher sending you into a pit of hell to retrieve a spellbook? Good times. On the note of PS2 games, I really should mention racing games as well, because the PS2 era of racing games just has some of the best racing games in my mind. I mean, Midnight Club 3, Most Wanted 2005, Burnout Revenge, Underground 2, like these sort of games are just so close to me, and I'm so glad that I can still play these games. There's just like, it's hard to explain, because they're not particularly immersive, right? But driving through these worlds still evokes so many memories in my mind, and it's always such a joy to just be blasting through these spaces as fast as you can. Especially in Most Wanted, there's this region along the docks. It's like this industrial sort of area, and I think most people haven't really spent much time here, but I remember this very fondly because I used to practice drifting here. And if I had to explain why this is so important to me, it kind of feels like going to a playground that you used to play in as a kid. That is like the best way that I can explain why this specific space is so special to me. And while we're at it, I might as well mention SSX Tricky, because I don't know why. I don't know why there's not so much about it as a space, which is kind of becoming a theme now, isn't it? Like, we're not really talking about spaces anymore. But SSX Tricky is just a very comfy game to get back in, and just like the aesthetic of it. Just like the menus having like this sort of immersive vibe to it, and the way you interact with the game, and the music in this game, and the way you play the game, and the audio and everything is so insanely cool to me. There's Katamari Damacy, which is a game that I don't even particularly have nostalgia for. Well, I didn't have nostalgia for SSX Tricky either, but Katamari Damacy just managed to be so nostalgia-inducing without actually being something I have memories for, which is weird. But, I mean, look at this game. How you're not supposed to get taken back to your childhood, even if you have no memories of this. But if we do want to talk about something that takes me back to my childhood, Ratchet and Clank. I played a demo of this when I was a kid, and until maybe 2 years ago, I hadn't seen this game again. So when I went back to the same places that I visited as a kid, it was a really cool experience because I'd forgotten about so many of these things, but now that I see them again, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, this used to be a thing. I was stuck here. Like, this took so much effort. And that those memories coming back is one of the coolest things of all time. And Ratchet and Clank will always be special in my heart for this one reason alone, if nothing else. So I think you're noticing the theme though, right? It's not really about these big, detailed worlds with a lot to see and do. In fact, some of these aren't even worlds that are big or worlds that you can explore. I think a really good example is when I play Watch Dogs 2, I said I really like to walk around the city. I like to do it now and then, but it's not really something I would do for more than maybe 15 minutes at most. I did the same thing with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, where I downloaded the game, I walked around the city for a bit, and I was like, wow, that's all pretty cool. But then I uninstalled the game because, well, I'm done. That's, yeah, sure, whatever, I guess. And something I'm beginning to realize now is that immersion is not the same as just a cool world to look at. Let me give you an example of Ocarina of Time, which is a game that I don't even like all that much. But it does do this really cool thing at the beginning, and I'm not sure why I didn't get this myself, but apparently you have a stick in your hand that you can equip, and you can take it up to this fireplace, which lights the stick on fire, which I did not know. Then you can take this over to this place and you can burn this thing, which helps you progress. And at the time I was really frustrated because it took me so long to figure this out. But the fact that there is this level of interactability with the game's world, in hindsight, it's just one of the coolest things ever to me. I mean, you can really interact with the world in that way. That's completely insane to me. I mean, even in a game like Metroid Zero Mission, the save points are actually save rooms. You go into these spaces to save. Or when we're talking about games that have like really immersive UI, or maybe even Hacknet, a game I find endlessly fascinating as it commits to its idea of the game being nothing more than a virtual machine you're running on your system. Not a single visual about the world itself, and yet it is one of the most immersive games out there. So what does immersion even mean to me? Now, something interesting happened recently. So White Light dropped a video talking about mods for Watch Dogs, and one of these mods is the Living City mod. Now I'm sorry for this, but before I actually mention what this mod does, I want you to look back at one of the games that I just mentioned. Yakuza 0, okay? So Yakuza 0 is a game where you play as Yakuza just going around the world, you know, doing your thing. But there's also a lot of like random stuff that you can do, and one of the funny things about this game is that some of these things are so incredibly random, and like, why is Yakuza doing all these things, right? But for example, here we have a girl who's standing out here and she's looking at a toy shop because she wants a toy. So Yakuza walks in there and he gets the toy for her. So you actually have kind of a reason to play this minigame. So there's always a reason why you would end up doing the things that you do. But on the other hand, you can also just think of Yakuza as being this one person that would enjoy these things, because there are multiple instances where Yakuza in his character does enjoy these things. So Yakuza doesn't feel distracting by its side missions. In fact, it feels like something that Yakuza himself would be engaging in. Now, keeping that in mind, let's get back to the White Light video. See, what this mod does is it adds a lot of things to do in the world that happen randomly and are free for you to engage with anytime that you want. And these things are things that feel like something Aiden Pierce himself would be doing. My favorite part of this is that prowling is now a real thing. Prowling is when you go to the city profiling people to find hints about something that might be interesting to you. So you can find events in the game world by just profiling people. So remember how I said I liked walking around the city just like profiling people? This turns it into a gameplay mechanic. And I think this is the core of what makes an immersive world. What I realized was that to have a good game, what you need to do is you need to think about what is good about your theme, about your aesthetic, about your gameplay, and think about how you can make the players engage with these things in a way that makes sense for them to, given the context of the game, like the world and the character that you're playing. And when you can do that, when you can make the fun part of the game also be the part that makes you feel like that character in that world, that is when a game achieves immersion. That is the ideal thing that I want from a game. It doesn't matter if I am in an insanely hyper-realistic world doing all these things, seeing all these cool animations, or maybe I'm just playing the entire game through just text. That's fine. It can be anything. As long as it manages to immerse me in that space, I'm happy. And this is something that I had to realize about myself, because I didn't consider that a game could be immersive if it wasn't AAA slop. But I think for once, I feel like I'm actually free from AAA slop, because I realized that the things I want from gaming are not exclusive to AAA slop. I can find these things in any game I want. Saint Spell's Academy is one of those games that's like, it's just a visual novel, and it ends up being probably more immersive than the Harry Potter games, just because I get to interact with the game world the way that I would imagine I would have to interact with it. Isn't that just kind of a beautiful thing? The problem was that I never understood what I was looking for in games. But now I do, and my eyes have been opened to a whole new world of games, and I'm so thankful for that. There we have it. That is the end of the video. That is the full thing. Everything has been done, and nothing else is left to talk about. Thankfully, after all that, we somehow made it to the end, because I was really starting to wonder if this video is ever getting over, because again, it's gone on for months now, and I'm just glad that it's over now. And somehow I reached to a very interesting conclusion that I wasn't really expecting to reach on when I was working on this video. So yeah, I'm very glad I made this video, and let's hope that whatever I make next is going to be a bit more uplifting. Like a lot of the recent videos have been kind of messy, and also reflect how much depression I had when I was making these videos. Now, on a more personal note, I do enjoy doing these things. I really enjoy making videos, I enjoy doing art and all these things. And ideally, I would really want to keep doing these things as like my main thing, because this should take some time, especially when you have, ADHD and stuff and you can't focus. And being independent would also be great, because I can finally go on HRT and stuff like that. And if you want to support me to that degree, you can just subscribe, you can comment, you can like, the usual stuff. But if you want to support me on a more financial level, you can also do that by giving off some tips to my coffee. And you can also become a member if you want to support me in the long term. Even if that's just going to be like $1 a month, that's already going to be quite good. So, if you want to, you can. But if you don't want to, you can also just go ahead and watch my stuff and, just be nice to me. Say some nice things, and I'll be more than happy. But either way, I appreciate you having watched all this, because I know that's been a really messy one, and I'm going to try my best to make the next ones a little bit less messy. Thank you. Bye bye.